welcome to Stillspeakpod. I'm bringing you a story about a girl named Keeslyn Roberts. Her family is desperate to find her. Keeslyn Noel Roberts was born October 22nd, 1999 to Eric and Shannon Roberts. Keeslyn is an only child and was given the nickname Butterfly by her parents. She grew up in Dalton, Georgia. Her father owned and operated Eric Roberts Trucking. By all accounts, she had a normal and happy childhood. She was an active color guard member in high school, and both her parents were actively involved in her activities. Until she got to high school, late teen years, when she found herself with the wrong crowd. And I think we've all been there at some point in our teen years. Keeslyn started dabbling with drugs. It started with marijuana use and then allegedly escalated to methamphetamines. She had some brushes with the law, even right up to her disappearance, but her family said that she knew she needed help and she was trying to get herself out of the situations that she was in. But then her father, Eric Roberts, got a call on January 20th of 2020 from her probation officer. And he was calling to ask him if he knew that his daughter had missed her check-in on January 17th. So, like any father would do, Eric goes straight to his daughter's home that she shared with her boyfriend, Chris. And Chris claimed he hadn't seen her. Red flag. I mean, you live with her and she's been missing for a few days and you don't report her missing, you don't alert her family, or at minimum call to say, hey, do you know where Keeslyn is? And making this even more strange is that as her father was leaving this home, Chris mentioned that he knew Keeslyn's car was at the Flying J, which is this travel center / truck stop and gas station in Resaca, Georgia. And I hope I said that right, Resaca. And the area around the Flying J seems to be a lot of fields and rural lands and mountains, and there's even a river nearby. So Eric now rushes to the truck stop, and what do you know? He finds his daughter's white Toyota Corolla parked in the far corner of the back parking lot of the Flying J. So how did Chris, her boyfriend, know that her car was there? And did he not wonder why her car was there and where she was? Was there any concern at all? Well, he hasn't fully been identified. We only know him by Chris. That's all I could find. And he's not been named as a person of interest in this case. And I don't know, maybe she had history of taking off for a few days, so maybe he wasn't alarmed by it. Who knows? That is a possibility, and you'll see why as we continue in the story. So her father starts inspecting the car, right? And he calls the police to report her missing, and he called Gordon County. But when they got there, they said that he had to call Murray County because that's the county she lived in. And this is sort of like a pet peeve of mine. I feel like it's 2021. Can't you streamline this a little better where whoever responds to the scene of a call just takes the report and is able to transmit it over to the other county? Because so often I hear in these cases of these people missing and a parent or a loved one calls and they're freaking out and they're panicking and they're desperate and they get this rigmarole and they go, no, you got to call this one, and you call that one. They say, oh no, I think you got to call that one. It's 2021. Can't we make this easier for people when somebody they love is missing so they don't have to be making 100 phone calls? But anyway, he said, quote, I found her wallet in there, her car keys, cash, debit card, and driver's license. We found everything she possessed, unquote. But we find out they did not find her phone. So now Murray County comes out and they take the report. But according to her father, they didn't really seem interested in searching the vehicle, and he ended up taking the car home where it ended up staying. And Eric Roberts told this deputy that he had not heard from his daughter, Keeslyn Roberts, since 10 p.m. on January 14th of 2020. According to the report, he said that he received a text message from her asking for money. And he did send that money to Keeslyn, but he hadn't heard from her since. The report also mentioned that Eric believed that she had left with a man named Andrew Franklin, and that he may have taken his daughter to the Bluffs in Atlanta. He told the deputy that he thought the situation was odd, and normally she did not just leave her vehicle anywhere. Now, I'm unclear on why he thought that she could be with this Andrew Franklin. No idea. I don't know if he still believes that or what, but that's what he told the officer. He also told him that she may be in danger because the crowd that she was hanging with involved gang activity. So Keeslyn, had her own demons, as do so many people out there in the world. And I have friends and relatives with addiction problems, and it's actually rather common for them to disappear for a day, a few days, even a few weeks, but never for this long. They usually resurface for money at some point. And she basically left behind everything but a phone. And the issue here is, depending on who she was hanging out with, which doesn't sound pleasant because he says that she was hanging out with people who have gang activity and she was mixed up in drugs at some point. The problem here is that those types of people are going to avoid police. So even if they know something or where she is, they're not going to voluntarily go in to share that with the police, because then they don't want to be implicated in a crime, or they're worried that they'll get in trouble for one of their crimes, and so that makes this a little complex. And obviously, friends with gang activity is highly concerning. So after he files her missing, it takes 5 days for a detective to reach out to her father about his daughter's case. Eric began down a determined path to find his daughter, so he starts to make phone calls, and he ends up finding a friend that Keeslyn had actually dropped off at work on January 18th of 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Denny's that actually shares the same parking lot as the Flying J. This same friend had called Keeslyn to be picked up, and Keeslyn did arrive, but she told her friend that she'd be back in a minute, but she never returned. On the same day, January 18th, Keeslyn was allegedly causing a scene at the Flying J. An associate actually called 911 after she had entered an employees-only area. But Keeslyn fled the store, and she ended up dropping and leaving behind her backpack with everything in it, which included cash, her wallet, ID, her phone charger, and her car keys, but not her phone. Which is weird, right? Because I just told you that her father found these items in her car that was left in the parking lot. So this tells me that either an employee or the officer somehow knew which car was hers to put those items in there, right? Now, it was a Toyota, so maybe they could tell it was a Toyota by the key, and maybe they did process of elimination to find out which car it is. I'm not sure who even put it in there. But that's exactly what her father found in the car. So now this is where things get strange. 3 months later, after their beautiful daughter disappeared, her parents receive a text message from a Flying J employee. And basically, they prompted them to go search a dumpster area where clothes had been found. And when they got there, they found clothes. They were hidden behind some fern bushes near a dumpster. And they determined it was her clothes. They recognized them. So again, they called authorities to collect the items. And they came again and they bagged the items. But allegedly they didn't do any testing on them because no crime had been committed, according to them. Keeslyn's phone records showed that the last ping of her cell phone was at 11 p.m. at the Flying J, but then nothing after that. Her cell phone has never been recovered, and the number is now owned by somebody else. Due to Keeslyn missing her check-in appointment on January 17th, which prompted this entire thing, an active warrant has been issued for her probation violation. And her father has gone after law enforcement pretty heavily. I mean, he's frustrated, right? So he's very upset. And he questions whether or not they have done enough to find his daughter. Quote, "I feel like they violated my daughter's civil rights," unquote. So her case originally was, taken care of by Murray County Sheriff's Office, but then the Georgia Bureau of Investigation took it over in November of 2020, so that's about 10 months after she went missing. And since then, Eric says that he's hit a brick wall with no leads or updates from investigators. Quote, "It seems like the GBI is dropping the ball big time since they took the case over. If you're going to take it over and not do anything, then don't take the damn thing," unquote. He has since launched a GoFundMe campaign and is offering a $20,000 reward for any information on his daughter's disappearance. Joe Montgomery, a special agent in charge at the GBI region office in Calhoun, told a news outlet that every lead and every reference is being handled, but nothing has come up, though the investigation is ongoing. Now get this, okay? A mere 2 days, so 2 days prior to Keeslyn going missing, so now we're on January 16th, Caleb Smith, 21 years old, goes missing from the exact same truck stop. His car was found there as well, with his keys, cell phone, and other personal items inside. Caleb's body, unfortunately, though, was located, and it was a few weeks after he went missing. He was located in a remote wooded area on February 2nd of 2020. His mother says, though, that he didn't know anybody who lived in that area that he was found. He was also found nude, and his clothing was nowhere to be found by his body. Now, Caleb's death actually looked really suspicious, but it ended up being ruled as an accidental overdose once toxicology came back. Now, what the two cases have in common is the location of both of their cars were parked out of reach of the Flying J cameras. They were also parked 5 spaces apart from one another, and both of them backed their cars into the spot. One was 20 years old and one was 21 years old when they went missing, just 2 days apart from each other. And the GBI claims that the two cases are not connected because they didn't know each other. And since Caleb's case was closed and determined to be a drug overdose, they said it's not connected. But it was never said whether or not there's a possibility that the two hung out with the same people, especially that they're their same age, well, kind of, 20 and 21, but yeah, similar. I don't know about you, but I don't know many people who overdose in a remote wooded area alone, naked, with no clothes anywhere to be found. What made me think about this was that there's a lot of times where, let's say you have a friend over, you're both doing drugs, and one of you dies, and the other one's like, oh my God, I am not calling the police, because if I call the police and say we were doing drugs, I'm going to get in trouble too. So they end up hiding the body, okay? And that's what made me think of here is, how did Caleb end up in this remote wooded area naked? Did he walk down the highway naked and like wander off into the woods and just overdosed out there? Was he dropped off there? Was he disposed of there? And it's just not a usual circumstance for an overdose, if you get what I'm saying. That being said, though, this part of Georgia is actually known for high drug use. And it's actually close to an area that's referred to as the heroin triangle. And there is high usage of meth in this area as well. Now, Keeslyn is described as 5 feet 6 inches tall, 125 pounds, with blue eyes and blonde hair. Anyone with information on her disappearance is asked to call the Georgia Bureau of Investigation at 706-624-1424. Her parents do have a GoFundMe. I will link it in the description. And they have a Facebook page. I will also link that. And, you know, her father admitted in the GoFundMe that his daughter had issues, right? And there's no excuse for it, but they love her. Of course they do, regardless. And they're tormented not knowing what happened to her. So let's help them find their daughter, share her picture, share her name, and get it out there. Could you even fathom going to bed every single night not knowing what happened to your only child? I think they understand the odds of whether or not she's alive. They still want answers regardless. And there are a lot of theories out there. Some people think that she wanted to escape her past, so she just picked up and took off. Well, I don't know about that. She seemed rather close with her family. I'm not sure that she would do that and worry them. Again, she is the only child. To me, the boyfriend seems a little sketchy, and I'd definitely be interested to know more about him. I just think it's odd that he knew where her car was, and he hadn't seen her in a few days, and clearly didn't seem concerned because he hadn't reported her missing or contacted her family to say, hey, I don't know where she is. But I need more of the backstory. I mean, was she commonly known for disappearing for a few days from the boyfriend's house? Who knows? And this altercation at the Flying J, where she kind of goes in the wrong entrance, and then there's like this big scene or chaos ensues, and then she ends up dropping her bag and taking off. I mean, did she go running and then she ran into somebody like behind the Flying J and then they kidnapped her? That's possible. Did she get picked up by somebody from the Flying J parking lot? Possible. I think it's also possible that if she really was supposed to be meeting with this Andrew Franklin, that maybe the boyfriend found out about it and followed her to the Flying J, and then something happened from there. And if she did get in a car with somebody, that means that she'd be, not in this area any longer, and the Lord only knows where she could be at. If she is still in that area, whether alive or not, there's going to be some issues with finding her because it is a very rural area and has mountains and whatnot out there and big open fields and wooded areas. That being said, they did find Caleb. So, it is possible they can find her. I don't know. All of these events just don't make much sense. So she drives a friend to work at this truck stop 2 days after Caleb Smith went to the same truck stop and parked 5 spots away from where she ended up parking and also disappeared. So she drops her friend off, she comes back, she parks her car, she tells the friend, I'll be back in a minute. Where the heck was she going in a minute? She never comes back. Then she ends up in the employee entrance. It was enough for them to call 911, which I don't know what really happened there because, I've accidentally walked into like an employees only area like, oh shit. And that's it. And I walk out, no big deal. So what happened that caused the associate to call 911? Was she acting bizarre? Was she being aggressive? And then she just like takes off, and she ends up dropping her backpack with everything that she needs except for her phone. And at some point she doesn't think, oh shit, I gotta go back and get it. Excuse my language. She just takes off because I guess maybe she knew that the associate was calling 911. And then what happened? So the police arrived. Did they not go looking around for her? I mean, they called you about this girl, and she ends up dropping her backpack full of stuff. And did you search the area? Did you look in the woods? Did you check the store? I'm not sure. And then even more weird is that her stuff that she ended up dropping in this situation ends up in her car. So somebody was able to figure out which car it was, or knew it was her car, and they put it in there. I don't know. The whole thing is just strange. And I'm not like a big coincidence person. I can kind of blow off one or two. Typically, sometimes some things are just like, oh, come on, that can't be a coincidence. I don't know, this Caleb and Keeslyn cases being so similar to one another, I don't know, that's weird to me. And I don't believe that this kid ended up in a remote wooded area and ODing naked. Because I mean, what are the odds that two different people went missing from the same truck stop, parked 5 spots away from one another, 2 days apart from one another? Like, that's just crazy. And I did notice that there have been other people who have gone missing from Flying J truck stops in other states. So, I mean, at this point, it's really anything goes, but coming in January, it's been 2 years. She already missed her 21st birthday with her family, and her birthday is on October 22nd, which is in a couple of days. So she'll be 22, and this will be her second birthday that she has not spent with her family. And they are desperate to find her. So check out the links in the description. Please share her story, and let's help this family out. Until next time.